Kriss Donald was a 15-year-old Scottish schoolchild who was kidnapped off the streets of Glasgow. He was driven around, he was tortured, he was stabbed, and he was burned alive. Now, if you're in England or in Wales or in Northern Ireland, you've probably never heard his name because it didn't even make the media in our countries. This was the first ever racially motivated murder in Scottish history. We're here to meet with his family. They're disgusted with the way they're being treated. They've been refused a peaceful, silent walk and vigil. They feel intimidated by not just the parole board, but also the local council. When you hear this story, I don't want you to just think about someone being kidnapped or tortured. I want you to think deeply about what that child's gone through and his family. Imagine it was your son. And then ask yourself at the end of listening to this, have this family had justice?
On the 15th of March 2004, schoolboy Kriss Donald was abducted.
The terrified teenager bringing him here to this deserted pathway to the east of the city.
An operation involving 40 officers is underway after a crime to horrify even this city.
His body was later discovered on an isolated walkway on the other side of the city.
They then stabbed and set him alight whilst he was still alive.
Kriss was a lovely boy. Kriss was the kind of boy that stuck up for everybody. He was family, he was all for his wee brothers, his wee sisters, his big sister, his mum. Never had a bad bone in his body. He had Asian friends for every kind. He didn't get involved with gang fights, he didn't get involved with the ones who were getting into trouble and that. He liked football, Rangers was his team, but he wasn't a big fan. But we were Celtic and it was all banter between us. It wasn't serious, it wasn't like sectarianism or anything like that. It was pure banter.
Was he popular? Was he loved?
Oh, he was loved with everybody. It's like if you add up, we're all sitting, right, who's going to the shop? We need milk or we're needing whatever. Kriss would be the one that would run to the shop. I'll go, no bother, what do you need? And then, oh, he'd come back, we forgot something. Kriss, I could jump back down. There was never, like if he was doing something for you, he done it.
Yeah.
He wanted to do it, he didn't feel as though he had to do it. And his ambitions was to join the army. That's all he went on about, that how he wanted to join the army and how he was 15 and it was any time soon, any time they knew, every morning he was at that letterbox waiting for his national insurance number to come through for him to then go and register himself to join the army.
So he knew what he wanted to do?
Yeah.
He knew what he wanted to do?
Aye, aye. That came when he was in the living room in a box. And I owned that letter and had to give it to his mum.
Faisal Mushtaq also hearing the anger of the crowd. Finally, Zishan Shahid. No remorse here.
A Pakistani Muslim gang, 5 men, adult men, big men, went out with the intent to kidnap the first white child they could find in the McCulloch Street area of Glasgow. That child was Kriss Donald.
Baldy and his friends, or whatever you want to call them, are the ones that took him away, and they were 5 grown men. Kriss was built like me, he was nothing to him. And he's screaming, he's 15, he's done nothing wrong. But they still took him. They still took him.
The motive for taking Kriss?
The first white boy to come out of McCulloch Street, because Baldy had already, he just got out of jail for assaulting a guy in Pollock Shields, who I personally know as well. That boy was in a coma for a very, very long time. And he was another lovely boy. He's now like a vegetable, that poor boy, for what Baldy done to him. Kriss was holding onto the fence and get dragged with these big bodybuilders that had just done years in the jail and built themselves up to come out Kriss was a wee boy, not a name, and holding on to that bit of fence for his life, screaming, I'm 15, what have I done? I've done nothing wrong, I'm 15. And they took him in that back of the car, 3 grown-ass men sat on him, and they were just stabbing into him and beating him up, driving all about Glasgow, drove him up and down to Dundee, trying to find somewhere to take him. And all that full journey, horrifically, they had him down the footwell.
Defence injuries are where someone's tried to defend themselves, so if they know they're going to be attacked, they'll put their arms up or their hands up, and quite often you'll find defence injuries on their wrists or on the side of their hands. If there are no defence injuries, they've been restrained by a second individual or third individual, so they've not been able to defend themselves.
Found some blood staining in the grass. Followed that staining up. Bits of blood which could easily be traced back to this area here, where the undergrowth's up, where there were 20 to 30 logs, maybe 10 feet in length, here piled up. There was evidence of charring and a strong smell of accelerant. The charring would indicate this young person sat down on those logs and possibly the accelerant poured over him and set alight.
I've seen the police describe their actions as they're just again, it's just so that when people understand the evilness in that evening of him, and have to think about a 15-year-old boy in the footwell of a car being stabbed multiple times, what the last hours of Kriss's life must have been like, what he must have been thinking.
At this point we don't know nothing, no, that's all there's all happened, right? We just knew this is where Kriss was found. We didn't know the exact spot where he was found, nothing. We were walking down a path and it's green, or grass, at the left. There's all these trees. And I could smell when the trees have been burning, you know, that smell, the fire smell. And that spot is where they sat that Wayne and sat him on fire. So which meant you got yourself up for there, crossed a path, onto a bit of grass, which I thought was Irish marks on the grass, so obviously wasn't it? So Wayne pulling himself, rolling down to the spot where his bench is, there was a puddle. But after that puddle would have been another wee path, and then it was a Clyde.
The lake.
Aye.
River.
So that must have been him trying to get there to put himself out. And when he's went to get to the water, he's obviously came across the puddle. It must have been, and he's thought he's in the water. That's his bench.
That's his bench there?
Yeah.
Okay, I recognise it now. So this was where they've
moved the trees.
moved the trees, but it was here. So do they know which way they brought him in?
Don't know. I don't know if they brought him in that way.
And who was it that found him?
A jogger. Or a dog walker. I think he was a jogger, and he thought he actually found a burnt out pig.
He thought he found a burnt out pig?
Yep.
Do you know the thing for people to think about? We're not talking about there's been a fight and someone's been killed in a fight. We're talking about premeditated kidnap, targeting someone for being white. Could you imagine, like we're here, imagine what this is like in the pitch black.
Black. Terrifying. We came down
when it was black, when it was dark. As a 15-year-old child to be brought here.
And it's the other end of the city, it's nowhere near where he's from.
So he wouldn't know
He wouldn't have a clue.
where he was?
Nope. I've only been to his bench a couple of times. I can't go to the plaque. And we've had to fight to keep the plaque there as well. Removed the plaque, the family paid for the plaque, they fought to get the plaque put on in the first place. The bench, exact same thing. Paid for everything.
The family did?
Yes.
Did none of the council support any of this?
Nothing. So when Baldwin had to get caught and that happened, then his bench got destroyed, spray painted, and his 40s all hammered to fuck.
So he's murdered, there's a memorial bench paid for by the family?
Yes.
And that memorial bench was smashed to pieces?
Yes. And also, they had to fight again for the plaque not to be removed.
The council want to remove the plaque
Yes.
in remembrance of him?
Yes.
For what reason? Did they give a reason?
No.
We would like to offer our sincere appreciation for the dedication that has been shown by Detective Superintendent Ellie Mackenzie and all of the officers who worked on the inquiry into the hellish murder of my son Kriss.
They've not got a racist bone in their body. Still to this day they've no. Still to this day they've no. I was angry when it happened because she'd be saying to me, look Janet, it's nothing to do with their Asian or Pakistani, whatever they are. They could be black, they could be blue, they could be green. I don't care what colour they are. There were 5 grown-ass men that fucking done that in my way.
This is a brutal story of a horrific racially motivated murder, but it's also a story of total failure of the system, of the parole board, of the MP to deal with this family in the most sensitive way. The fears that they face and the MPs treating them with total disregard is going to anger you as much as the murder has. We're about to approach the 20th year anniversary of Kriss's murder.
Yes.
Why are you sat here now?
I'm sat here now because I asked Sammy to get in touch with the Glasgow Council and our local MP for us to make a silent walk on his 20th year anniversary.
And when they've contacted the council to ask for this silent walk for Kriss
Well,
on his 20th anniversary, what was the response?
The response was, under no circumstances were we allowed to do anything. Anything because it would entice racial hate or fighting, arguing, blah, de blah, de blah.
You wanted a vigil for Kriss, basically?
Yes.
A vigil on the day he was murdered and taken of 20 years. And you wanted that anyway, but this is at the same time that recently you've been told that one of the killers is going to be...
Yes, we get told with a parole officer that Danish is getting out early. But we don't know when, how early. But he's getting out early. Because he's got a family to come home to. He's got a job to start. He's got a life.
That's what they said?
Yep. And he's done his time for his crime. And for them to be told, yous are not the victims.
They told his sister and mum.
Yes. If he's that scared, yous move away.
The family, if I'm right after speaking with the sister, the family gave concerns that these men who murdered Kriss they'll bump into them in Glasgow.
Yes.
And then they were told.
And what? That's what they were told. Deal with it. Just keep your mouth shut and deal with it. That's what they're getting told. So then Sammy makes an appointment with her MP. Oh, they're all up for the meeting and all that until I don't know how long it was before she was to go in, say an hour before it, a phone call. Oh, Miss Donald. Say his name, I don't know the boy's name, the guy's name, right? The MP has just took severely no well and he won't be back to work for a good while now. We'll have to reschedule your appointment. For Sammy to come home from work the next day in her car and pass and see him getting out his car, suited and booted, perfectly looking fine, walking into his wee office. What does that say? Now we get told if we do a memorial for Kriss and we invite people to go there, we'll be done with breach of the peace.
The sad state, if we reverse the roles here and there was a racist attack against someone, the MPs would be organising this vigil.
Tell me about it.
They'd be leading this vigil. The council would be funding the memorial. Can we understand when the council have contacted the family or the parole office have contacted the family, just so people understand again, were they caring? Were they sensitive?
No, they were spoken down to and kept getting told, I mean, yous are not the victims. Yous are not the victims. Kriss was the victim. Yous are not the victims. I mean, they've done their time. They've got family to come out to. They've got a job to come out to. They've got a new life to come out to. They've done their time. Well, Sammy, Angela, Laurie, Amber, Taylor, their time will be to their last breath. They're never going to have their own time. Never. All I'm asking for is some people to come.
Walk along here.
Walk along.
The city.
As you see, it's a nature walk.
The city centre's this way, yeah?
It's only a nature walk. There's nothing we can upset. Keep quiet, nice and peaceful, just for Kriss. and his family.
How can
We don't want to turn it into a circus.
How could your family walking here cause racial tensions?
Well, that's what I don't understand.
How can I have a remembrance for a boy who was racially murdered for being white?
That's what I don't understand. That's all we ask for, is a peaceful, quiet
Silent walk. How many others are there? Because no one in England will even know who Kriss Donald is. The most horrific, brutalised torturing of a child for the first ever racially motivated murder, and no one knows his name. And no one knows his name, probably because they've successfully intimidated the family into silence, like they're trying to do again now.
Yes.
But what I mean is, how many other Kriss Donalds are there?
That we're no hearing about. This is what I want to put. It's not just for Sammy. It is for Sammy and Angela and Laurie, Taylor and Amber. But this is for all the other ones out there that's been sitting, gubbed up, silence, say nothing.
Can I ask you, the word justice, we hear justice a lot. Do the family feel they've had justice?
No.
If someone's about to be released, again, to stress to people listening to this, we're talking about a premeditated, horrific, sadistic torturing of a child, brutally torturing him and burning him alive. And have the men ever showed any remorse?
No. They sat and laughed in court, in front of the judge, the jury, everybody, and their wee dog sitting laughing there at Angela and that.
I've seen footage of them walking into court laughing.
Yes, and leaving. Yes, we get the Vicky, we get the fingers.
They're sticking their fingers up at everyone.
Yes, they go to all.
Am I right that the probation said they can give the killers Chris's family's address?
Yes.
To ask them?
To ask them, not to tell them, to ask them to stay away. To ask them. But if they don't stay away, then what happens? But why should they be? We moved out to Glasgow because of all this. We all moved out. What's the point of that? I don't get that either.
I don't believe there's anyone in Scotland that thinks these men should be released back onto the streets of Scotland.
Well, I don't think so. I really don't think so.
What if you could speak to politicians now? What would you be asking of them?
Never let them out. Never let them out. Never let them out. They're dangerous. They're dangerous. There's going to be another family like us sitting here. There's maybe more than another family. You're letting these people out. You're letting them out to keep repeating and doing what they're doing. Everybody's scared of them. They're running the jails. They're living like fucking kings in the jails.
I've heard. How important is it that the government are made aware? I believe you've wrote. Well, you sent to me a petition you'd wrote.
Yeah.
You'd wrote a petition requesting.
We asked for the petition and we were told yes, we were allowed it. Yes, we're allowed to put his name on. Yes, we're allowed to say what he did. Yes, we're allowed to put a photo on, but we're not allowed to say when he's being released, which we don't know anyway. So all we know is he's getting out early.
So you'd be asking, if you were talking to someone now who's just watched this video, you'd be asking them to sign the petition so that the government become aware of how many people in Scotland are upset about this decision. Because the reason they don't want marches, the reason they didn't want to have a walk was because of racial tensions.
Yes.
How can it benefit to put these racist killers back onto the streets of Scotland? So if you were speaking to someone now who's just watched this video, why would you want them to sign the petition?
Why I would want them to sign a petition? To help back the family, give them a bit of support, give them a wee bit of backbone back, give them some security back, the fact that they're no sitting waiting for that dreaded phone call to get told there's another one out.
And this will be a campaign again now, 20 years on, for justice for Kriss.
Never had nothing off them, no help, no nothing. Anything they wanted to do, the plaque, the bench, they kept trying to put them off. Now we want to do a quiet, respectful, peaceful walk on Chris's anniversary to be told if we turn up, we'll be done with breaching the peace. We don't care who you are. Come, join in. Everybody's got children somewhere. Maybe you've not got a child, somebody in your family's got a child. Everybody must understand. How would you feel if that was somebody you knew? How would you feel if that was your boy? How would you feel if that was your nephew? How would you feel if you just even knew the person? How do you feel you don't know him? Hey, how does it make you feel? It's fucking horrible. I can't put any words.
My son is nearly 15. All I can picture is the vulnerability in a child at that age to be kidnapped, the fear that he must have gone through for those hours before his horrific, brutal torturing and murder, to be taken to a dark, secluded place like this and then set on fire. How can adult men commit a crime like that, laugh about it, gloat about it, not show any remorse, and they're to be freed back into the same city as his family? How can that happen in society? How is that allowed to happen? And then when the family want to hold a peaceful silent walk, they're intimidated by the council not to do so. The family made it clear to me they've never been my supporters, yeah? Not all my politics. This is not about me. If you're watching this, I don't care if you dislike me or hate me or love me. This is not about me. This silent walk is organised by the family to show support for the family, to remember their child who was savagely taken from them. So if you're angered by this, if you're watching this, thinking what can you do? Come out and support the family on the 15th. There's going to be a silent vigil with lights coming to the bench, the point that he was brutally died in 20 years ago, and also sign the petition. The family, again, are going to hand that petition in to the government, to the parole board, with their demands. And if enough of you people who care about this sign it, Kriss was a son of Scotland. Let the government know how much you care about what happened to him. Sign the petition at justiceforkriss.com. If you've watched this, please download this video yourselves, upload it onto all your own social medias. Feel free to put it on YouTube, on your Twitter, share it absolutely everywhere. Support Kriss's family, support the campaign, sign the petition.